So Josh Donaldson, the hat trick of home runs yesterday, and whether he was in it or not, a game like that certainly puts your name back in the lights when we're talking about the MVP race. And this MVP race is going to be fascinating. And we talked about it earlier. It's not even so much, okay, who do you have number one? It's who do you have out of your top five that at the end of the day is really going to establish who wins this thing. But you got Altuve, you got Trout, you got Donaldson, you got Betts, Ortiz, Edwin Machado, and even Miguel Cabrera in Detroit, I guess, belongs on the list. Where does Donaldson stack up right now, and what does he have to do in the next 5 weeks to win this thing back to back? Which, hey, listen, most Blue Jays fans and Donaldson himself would take a playoff run over MVP awards. But at the end of it, when we're talking about Hall of Fame votes in 15 years, back to back MVPs goes a long way.
It would, and he should absolutely be in the conversation for them. I think he's having a better year this year than he did last year. When you look at the numbers offensively, his on-base percentage is up. He's on pace for the same number of home runs. He's hitting for the same batting average. You look at the durability, the defense, the overall package to me is absolutely an MVP season. So he's in a cluster, the way I see it, with three other players. I think that Jose Altuve is in there hitting 355. I mean, there's no way that you can look past that kind of a gaudy number if you're a voter, and he has the home runs and the stolen bases and the OPS to back it up. So he's the second candidate. I think that Mike Trout is always going to be a candidate. The best player in baseball, leads the American League and Major League Baseball and wins above replacement, and he does it all. And then rounding out that top pack, I think you have Mookie Betts. And it's pretty impressive for a guy who's pretty slight, much like Altuve. He's not someone who's going to overpower you with strength necessarily, but he's got, I think, 28, 29 home runs. He's got numbers that compare favorably to all those other guys, and he's on a team that's headed for the playoffs. So I think those four are in a clump right now, and whoever has the best finish could come away with the award.
It's funny how it works because a year ago, there was only two guys. It was Donaldson and it was Trout. And the third guy on that list was Lorenzo Cain, who really didn't stand a chance. And there was that big series in whenever it was, early August, late July, where the Jays went down to Anaheim. And not that Trout was no good in that series, but Donaldson obliterated the baseball. And from that moment on, he took that MVP and never let it go. See, in a weird way, the Angels come here, they play spoiler, they take 2 or 3 from the Jays, and they couldn't get Mike Trout out. He killed them. We all saw, what makes this guy so great. And then he goes back into irrelevancy because this team is 21 games out of first place. I'll admit, like I get suckered in on this. Over the last 5 weeks, my MVP can't come from a death march, even like you said, even if he is the best player in baseball.
Yeah, and I think a lot of voters would look at it that way. I think that's why Trout has had one MVP, even though if you look at the numbers, he's an amazing player along the lines of Mickey Mantle, and that has cost them because the Angels just haven't been very good. So I think that he's going to have to establish himself as clearly the best player in the league to win the award, whereas someone else could benefit from a narrative push. It's not going to happen with Trout. And, rightly or wrongly, to me, I look at MVP as who's the best player, who's added the most value. And so I certainly wouldn't rule Trout out on those grounds. But I think that a lot of voters, at least historically, would say that if you're not on a winning team, on a team that's competing for the playoffs, it's pretty tough to be the most valuable guy in the league.